Today on Locked On Canadiens, it is Josh Wawa SZN.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 919. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. My name is Laura Sab, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by the wonderful Scott Matla of Habs Eyes on the Prize. And before we get into this episode, I would like to share a PSA, a public service announcement with all of our listeners. Do not engage New Jersey Devils fans. No good will ever come from that. Just don't do it. Anyway, Scott, how are you?
I'm doing all right. It's good to have, I'm not going to say meaningful, but semi-meaningful Montreal Canadiens hockey back. Even though, and I'm going to do this rant here, is that there were no broadcasts for anyone in the United States of this game. The Devils had two games, a split squad game. They broadcasted neither of them. ESPN Plus did not carry the game at all. And there was actually not an English broadcast of the game available in Canada either. RDS was the only one carrying the game, which it's the first preseason game. I could understand if there was a split squad game that you have to choose between two. It was jumping through hoops to try and find a way to watch this game tonight, which is frustrating because let me just watch. I pay for this service and you're not even broadcasting anything. It's very frustrating. And yes, I get it. Monday Night Football is taking up 2 slots on ESPN now for reasons, but just like, let me watch the hockey game. I don't think I'm asking much, that it's like just some way to be able to tune in to watch this. Because if you didn't live in Canada with access to, RDS, even you were out in the cold on this, and it's the first preseason game. Like, what are we doing here? It's frustrating. Like, I'm over it. Found a way to watch that I can't mention on the show for various reasons, but it's like I shouldn't have to do that to watch my team play hockey. It's ridiculous.
I absolutely agree with you there. All right, Scott, I know we're going to get into goaltending and we're going to get into Joshua Wawa. We're going to spend a lot of time on him. But if you wanted to summarize this game, or not even summarize this game, was there anything that stood out to you? Because before the game, we discussed, I was very excited about the goalie-Reinbacher pairing that was in the morning skate lines. And we were also really excited about the Joshua Roy and Owen Beck, and I think it was UC London. I didn't even see the third person on that line. I just saw the Owen Beck and Joshua Roy and got excited. So there were a lot of things that we were curious about prior to this game this afternoon. I want to ask, did anything really stand out to you other than Joshua Roy? Let's leave Joshua Roy for the second segment.
I think the biggest things is there were a couple of players in this game that I really like. Joshua Wawa being part of that, and obviously we'll touch on that. I didn't dislike Juraj Slafkovsky's game tonight. He left seemingly, as Matt Drake clipped it, because I missed it as the game was ending, leaving the ice to go throw up after taking a pair of hits, which not ideal. I enjoyed his game there. We liked Owen Beck a little bit. It was a quiet game. You can tell this is a team that doesn't have a lot of chemistry going amongst newer players here for the most part. Slafkovsky and Josh Anderson looked great together, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And I kind of liked Alex Newhook as the third part on that line. Anderson had a strong game, couple of really good scoring chances. And as for David Reinbacher, I was impressed. He has what I like to call high IQ hockey plays, in that he can read and develop it. Sebastian High and Hedy Kalakash talk about scanning the ice, and he did it really well on the goal. On Anderson's goal, is that Reinbacher is watching where the puck is going to Alex Newhook on the left wall, and he swings himself up towards the faceoff dot to open up a passing lane, gets himself there, and then immediately collects the pass and puts it right to the back post for Josh Anderson. And that's vision and that's sight. And just watching him play, even if he gets into a hairy situation, he kind of remains composed and makes the smart play in that situation there. And I think that that's a really impressive feat for such a young player. There are some not skill issues, but just finesse things that he can work on. But I was impressed with Reinbacher a lot tonight. And I know Logan Mailloux had his shorthanded incident. I don't know what to call it, where he was the only forechecker shorthanded below the goal line on the penalty kill. After that, I can see the offensive upside that they're looking for there. I didn't think he had a particularly great game. I don't think he was as bad as that one moment there. This was a lot of learning moments for a lot of goaltenders we'll talk about later, but a lot of players in this game. And I'm not going to read too much into quite literally anything in this because it's the first competitive game a lot of these guys have played so far this year.
Right. And it's a chance for the team to assess what they've got. But at the end of the day, it's just to dot some I's and cross off some T's, right? Like they probably have a really good idea of who they want in their starting lineup. And this is just an opportunity for them to A, solidify that, and B, for anybody to like separate themselves from the pack, either in a positive way or negative way, so that the Canadiens can understand what to do with them. I had like a general question for you in that I guess this is something that we want to do in the regular season recaps. Spoiler for our listeners. We wanted to do, like in our regular season recaps, we wanted to talk about if there were any turning points in the game. And if there were 3 players that you want to see improve next game. So it's a little bit hard because preseason games have so many different like starting lineups, night in and night out. Even if they choose the same personnel, they'll put them at different lines or different pairings. But if there were 3 things that really stood out to you in a positive or negative way, other than Joshua Roy, obviously, what would you say they were? Very, very briefly.
I think the breakout needs work a lot. Is that defensively, Jordan Harris was very good. Caden Gooley and David Reinbacher were very good. Mailloux had his moments, but Arbor Jacki kind of struggled a little bit in the way he possessed the puck and took care of the puck in his own end of the ice. Just in general, the team did not handle the puck well in their own end of the ice, and that resulted in taking penalties, Devils scoring on the power play. That's something that I want to see them improve on. It doesn't always need to be a perfectly threaded leading breakout pass. Sometimes just flip the puck out to center ice and get your change. It just simple little things, fundamentals matter in games. I did kind of like the power play moved a little bit more than we've seen it. They got better looks on net, and I know it is preseason, but it was different options shooting the puck and making things happen around the net there. And I think that's really important. And just the last thing is no one got in any stupid fights. Nobody really did anything stupid except for the Devils, who shoved Joshua Wawa onto their backup goaltender, and he left the game injured. It's hard to really like pinpoint too much in here because it's one game into the preseason. The team that's going to play the next game, there's probably going to have Doc and Suzuki and Caulfield. A guy like RHP, Emil Heineman's probably going to play some of these games here. It's going to be a completely different look on defense. And it's really hard for me to judge until we get maybe 2 to 3 games in, and some of these junior guys, some of these AHL guys, get sent down to the next camp there. But the key to victory for the next game, and I believe they're playing Toronto, would be take care of the puck. Just be smarter with it. Even if it's not flashy, just be smarter with the puck. Kind of, simplify the game just a little bit more there. I saw good flashes, but everything's not quite connecting yet in that regard.
I think all of that is fair. I'm just double checking because I do think it's Ottawa. It's not Toronto. Toronto's after Ottawa. I know.
Oh.
I thought twice about it because I knew I was about to burst your bubble and make you realize that there's going to be Montreal Canadiens playing Ottawa Senators. That's on Wednesday, everybody. So we will obviously have a recap of that game. As much as neither of us wants to watch it because Ottawa. But in the meantime, we talked about Joshua Roy. We said we were going to talk about him in our second segment. We've got lots of positive words for him. We are so excited about this kid. And let's get into that in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And Locked On. Scott, is it time to talk about Joshua Roy?
It is always time to talk about Joshua Wawa. And looking at this game here, and this is one game, this is the minuscule sample size that we are going off of here, that if you were coming up to me and pointing a totally non-threatening L-shaped object at me and asked me to make a decision here on if I would start with Joshua Wawa, Juraj Slafkovsky on the NHL roster, I'm going to pick Joshua Wawa right now. And this is not because I think Juraj Slafkovsky played poorly. It's that I think Juraj Slafkovsky needs those bigger minutes to develop his timing and finesse things in his game with an opportunity that he will get at the AHL level. Admittedly, I would love both of them to play in the AHL together, possibly here, but Joshua Waugh he's just smart. And we were talking in the Eyes on the Prize Slack a little bit, and someone said, would we be happy if Joshua Waugh becomes Tyler Toffoli? And my answer to that would be, I would be thrilled if Joshua Waugh becomes Tyler Toffoli, because Tyler Toffoli, not always the fleetest of foot, but a very well-rounded 200-foot player in the right spots, scores big goals, gets himself into areas to make things happen. And he scored the opening goal tonight off a really nice play from Xavier Simoneau to keep a deflected Jesse Ylönen pass alive and feed Waugh at the side of the net. I'm really impressed with what I've seen from him, not just from when he was drafted to the year after, having gotten to watch him a lot more in person now this year. It's hard for me to not be impressed with what he's doing. And admittedly, selfishly, I'd like him to be, down with the Rocket, of course, given that they're my main coverage beat here. But I can't help but think he's going to make it real hard to cut him at the end of camp there if he ends up being cut. And we've seen it before. Kent Hughes, Martin St. Louis, and Jeff Gordon. If you're an unexpected surprise, they'll keep you. They will send somebody else down. We saw it happen with Arbor Jacki. He made the team out of camp last year, whether we expected it or not. There's no reason why Joshua Waugh kind of can't do the same thing, find himself on a third line spot, filling in on power play 2 or something. There's every opportunity there for him right now.
So, Scott, we were talking about Joshua Roy becoming the next Tyler Toffoli. There were some things about Tyler Toffoli that were very defensively minded, and he was pretty sound himself. So do you think that Joshua Roy has that in him, whether he's showing it now or whether it's going to be something that he comes up with in the future, develops in the future? I shouldn't say comes up with, it doesn't come out of thin air, because that was definitely something. It's not something that has necessarily been an absolute knock on him his whole career or anything like that. But you usually think of him as not empty calories, but purely offense, right? Delicious calories.
I think the thing with Waugh is, and we talked about this when he went back to junior after he put up 110 points, that it's what can he do? And we talked about lessening his offensive impact to learn more on the defensive side. And, Matt Drake, who have followed him religiously because he hitched his wagon to Joshua Waugh rightly, is that he's done a lot to develop that other side of his game on the puck there in terms of covering defensively, being a penalty killer, being just more involved defensively, hustling down back checks to make things happen. He's not going to become Patrice Bergeron or, Alexander Barkov, anything like that. But he's becoming more than capable enough that even going to the next level, you have a much better base to build on defensively there. And I saw that in this game. He's reading lanes well. He's making good decisions in the defensive zone. Again, he's not like just shutting guys out, but he's doing the right thing to keep play out of the high danger areas as best as he can. And he's someone that I'd like to see them give him a run on in one of those preseason games. Stick him with a Kirby Doc. Stick him with, Alex Newhook, if that's how you're going to run at center there. Stick him with Suzuki and Caulfield. The opportunities are there. And I think the ceiling for Joshua Waugh is becoming wider. I don't think he'll be a superstar forward, but I think there's a lot to be said about a guy who can come in and give you potentially 55 points a season, like clockwork, 20 goals and 30 plus assists in a manner that Joshua Waugh does. That is incredible, especially for a guy picked in the 5th round. I think he's someone that I now need to keep a closer eye on. That if he doesn't make the team out of camp, I don't think he's going to be far off of being at the top of that call-up list down in the AHL either.
Right. And I also don't think he's going to be waiting too long. And I have another question now. Is he going to be, because before this season, we talked a lot about him being potentially a guy that the Canadiens might have to trade away in the future. Is he giving you more and more signs that the Canadiens might in fact want to hold on to him and trade away a different asset? Because let's face it, there's a lot of players on this roster that could be traded for value, or in the pipeline that could be traded for value.
I absolutely think that could be the case. I don't think they're looking to trade him right now. And I know that if something comes along that is just undeniable, okay, you kind of pull the trigger on that if it's going to get you to that next level. But I think right now they look at Joshua Waugh as someone that they haven't seen what he can do at the NHL level yet. If he comes and he can dominate the AHL, but maybe can't stick at the NHL level right away, but they know he's putting up points and maybe it's just a change of scenery thing, maybe then. I don't think he's going anywhere right now, nor do I wish that he would be going, anywhere right now. I think they've only begun to scratch the surface on what his professional game will look like. And overall, I can't help but be excited about that. I think it's a really good showing. It's not flawless. None of our prospects are flawless, even the ones that we love dearly. But I think he's put together a really good start in this preseason to keep himself in the conversation and keeping himself out of any potential, trade situations. I don't think Kent Hughes is willing to unload some of his cachet of prospects and picks just yet until the team knows that they're actually ready to turn that next corner there and finally find that next level.
And speaking of next level, this is tough because it's a Joshua Roy segment. I didn't want to bring people down or anything. How far do we think we're away from Juraj Slafkovsky's next level? So yesterday I said the Canadiens have taken a really slow approach to his development. There were some people that disagreed, and I understand their point of view. Like, I think it's a legitimate argument to make is that, he was drafted and then they threw him in the NHL. It's not like it was a slow development, but they threw him in the NHL, but they're not giving him as many minutes as you would expect for his end potential, right? So I think that's what I meant with slow development. It's not like they made him languish in the AHL for years or they sent him back to Europe or anything like that. No, they allowed him to be pro and he made the NHL team right off of opening season, right after he was drafted. I don't think it was slow in that sense. I think it's slow in terms of what they're exposing him to. So how far do you think we are from Juraj Slafkovsky attaining that next level?
I'm hopeful that it gets figured out this year. He looked a little bit more aggressive, more direct with his attacks tonight, but there's still work to be done. We knew he was going to be a project, and the hope you have is by the end of this season that he looks more like the finished product here. In that, if he puts it together in the regular season here and he starts putting up goals and assists more regularly, great, awesome. That's just found money. If the process is there and showing through the regular season, I think you're okay with it. I just hope that it's like if he's struggling at the NHL level and, finding confidence is hard, don't be afraid to just send him to the AHL and get more of that game time, slow the speed down for him a little bit and see what he can do. I just don't want them to try and, force through what might be a slump or a learning spot there. He's got talent and we know and we can see it. It's just, can he put it all together? And I'm hoping that by the end of this season, we finally start to see what, Juraj Slafkovsky can truly be.
Speaking of what people can truly be, I think Scott can truly be a major goalie nerd. And we're going to talk about that in just one moment here on Locked On Canadiens. All right, Scott, so you said you wanted to talk about goalies, and you even put it literally in our show background today. Scott loves rookie goalies. Let's talk about that. Are you about to become one of those weird goalie nerds?
No, because
we love.
Yes, we love goalie nerds. I can't do that because I can't analyze the goaltending position like they can. I can only do what I can do with my eyes. It was a tale of two goaltending performances tonight. Samuel Montembeault unfortunately let in one of the funniest goals I've ever seen in that. He did everything I can tell right, except the puck just took a weird bounce. Simon Nemec dumped it in from basically the center ice thing, hit the end board, hit off of his skate on the post, bounced up off of his ass and into the net. It's preseason for everybody. Like I thought Montembeault was very good otherwise in that, but I liked Jakub Dobes tonight. He is, as Greg Ballack put it when we talked to him, he can be a bit chaotic in that he comes real aggressive out of his net to make plays. I liked what I saw from him, though. When he got down and out, he's still moving, though. He's athletic. He's big. He's going to give Rocket fans, and that includes myself, several heart attacks potentially this season here. But I really liked what I saw from Jakub Dobes tonight. I liked what I saw from him in Buffalo, too. Even though they lost that game, he was very hard on himself afterwards. But he's someone that I'm very interested in seeing, and I assume we'll see Primo and Allen in the next game now, which, okay, we're going to see. What do you guys have against Ottawa here? I thought Dobes did very well playing in relief of Samuel Montembeault. Can Caden Primo play well in the stead of Jake Allen or vice versa here? But I was a really big fan from what I saw from Dobes. I don't always love the full red pads because they just bring back Carey Price's cursed memories of all red pads. So I did like what I saw from him tonight. I'm far from a goaltending expert, but at the same time, it's the first preseason game. The team isn't playing particularly well in front of him, and he didn't seem like he was all that phased. So it's probably a good way to kick off your professional career, I would guess.
That's really interesting because I was very nervous about him. Not because I didn't have faith in him or anything like that. It's just like for me, he was mostly an unknown quantity because I didn't have access to his background, his formative games as much as, I believe it was Hattie that was able to scout him the best. But I had a lot of trouble kind of following and tracking how he was doing. But I think it's a really encouraging sign that you saw some good habits from him. You saw what you really liked from him. And again, admittedly, it's one preseason game and it was a split, like they split the games, right? So we're going to have to see more from him. And I'm hoping that we get to see a lot of him in Laval, right?
Yes, he will be he and what I assume Caden Primo or someone is like, I don't quite know what the Rocket goaltending. I know Dobes is going to be one of the guys there. Like that is basically locked in at this point. That is the only guarantee I can give you. Don't know it'll be Caden Primo. Don't know it'll be Strauss Mann. Don't know it'll be Zach Riamon. But I know Jakub Dobes is going to play a lot of games for the Rocket this season.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there's a glut of goalies. The Canadians almost don't have goaltending and have goaltending. Like they have a couple good goaltenders. They've got a great AHL goaltender in Caden Primo. They've got Samuel Montembeault who's been he's been solid. He's not been bad. He had a really decent year last year, and even before, even with that wrist injury, he was one of the hardest workers there. And then they've got an aging on his way out goalie. So but again, at the same time, there's so many players there that you think any one of them could end up being the starting goaltender in Laval or the first call up when the Canadians need one. So it's just like for me, the Canadians goaltending situation is going to be a big mystery for quite some time, unless they sign somebody or draft somebody who is a clear number 1A.
And that's the thing about goaltending is they're going to wait on Quentin Miller, who looked fantastic in the preseason scrimmages and the prospect showcase. I think they might have found something in the rough there. I know Jakub Fowler. They are waiting to see what is Jakub Fowler. You know, he's playing his first NCAA season. They clearly loved him based on the draft video. Emma Croteau, don't know much about him, but he might be putting together a solid. I think he's going to the NCAA this year to start that. And then you have Evgeny Volokin over in Russia, which
Again,
I don't know
unknown
on that.
quantity.
And there's a glut of goalies coming, but I think Allen's going to be gone after this year. Montembeault it's going to come up to this year. Do you play well enough for a new contract, or do they let you go into UFA and they roll with Dobes and Primo or whomever afterwards? It's going to solve itself, but it's going to take a season or two, kind of like the logjam on defense. Names on there are going to get traded. They have a lot of forwards. Some of these guys are going to age out. Some of these guys are going to get traded. The name of the game with a lot of this is patience right now, because they've reloaded the chest a bit. They're going to probably do the same this year at the draft, and they're bringing in all these pieces. They got to age them up, age out the previous group that isn't fitting here anymore. We're in the most frustrating time because you can see the plan as it is coming together timeline-wise, and then you just have to wait, and that's no more true than a net, because it's the one like great mystery there. They have Lane Hudson. They have all these forwards and everything that in other positions that are great. Goaltending is just this mystery. And maybe Jakub Dobes surprises. Maybe he becomes that guy. I don't know, because goaltending's voodoo. But for the game tonight, I really enjoyed what I saw from him, and I'm hoping they either give him a full game or give him another good run out here. And then they play 4 games this week. He's going to play again, but I'm hoping they give him the start more than the backup role for that.
I broke the internet. I'm sorry. I'm leaving that in for the YouTube crowd. I'm leaving my error in there. Because I was getting really excited to see, what's next for Dobes. But in the meantime, we're going to keep following these prospects and this preseason. We are back to 5 days a week now, and you can find our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends. Please leave reviews so other people can discover us. Remember that we are aiming to get to 3,000 subscribers before the puck drop at the beginning of the season, and you'll get a special bonus episode as a result of that. You can find us on social media. We're at L_Canadiens on formerly Twitter. You can email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow.